DC Boxing Legend Podcast. 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 Home of the champion. Welcome to DMV DC Boxing Legends Podcast. Today I have a very special guest in the building. Ladies and gentlemen, we have no other than DC Boxing legendary manager and promoter. No other than legendary J.D. Brown. How's it going, brother?
Thank you, Rashid. Everything is going great, my man.
Man, it's an honor and a pleasure, man, to have you on here, man. For many years, I've been seeing you all around the city and, doing wonderful things for not only boxing, but for the DC youth, I remember you down 500 C Street helping us get those great jobs those jobs that help us feed our families with, as young men and young women. So, brother, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on here, brother.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be on here with you.
Yes, indeed, brother. So, how did you get started into boxing management and promotions?
Well, this goes back. I was a athlete myself in D.C. I went to Spingarn High School. I went to Howard University. I played football and baseball at Howard. I was all conference in baseball, and when I graduated from college, I started working in the Department of Recreation, and I started working at Kelly Miller down where Lincoln Heights is at. And they had a lot of young kids down there that wanted to be a part of the program. Some of them couldn't play baseball and football. A lot of them wanted to box. So I started a boxing program down there and started with one of my best friends that I had, Johnny Gant. Johnny Gant, he grew up in Lincoln Heights, and so he became a mentor to some of the kids that I was training and starting to get involved in boxing. And at the same time, I played semi-pro baseball with the Washington Black Sox. And on the Washington Black Sox team, we had Jenks Morton, who was Sugar Ray Leonard's trainer. He and I were close friends. And Rock Newman was on the team with us. And Glenn Harris was on the team with us. And we had the opportunity of talking boxing during the baseball game.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that I enjoyed about it so much that I got involved. And then in the DC Department of Recreation, I became involved with the boxing program there where we had the Mayor's Cup. I was part of the original cast that started the Mayor's Cup in DC. And from there, I got involved with the boxing programs all over the city. And when Johnny Gant was asking me to be his manager, at the end of his career, I became his manager, and so that's when I got involved with the professional side of boxing.
Oh, wow. So, what was boxing like back then in those days?
It's funny because the amateur program that we had in the metropolitan area, the DMV, we had some great fighters. I mean, we had guys out there who went on and became world champions, guys who put Maryland, DC, and Virginia on the map. And these guys, they developed because there was no free rides. Everybody took the opportunity to fight the best, to be the best. And that's what we had back then. And these guys that we had back then, like I said, they went on to become world champions. Not only Sugar Ray Leonard, you had Derek Holmes, you had Mark Two Shop Johnson, you had Keith Holmes, Daryl Coley, I remember he was an amateur, Michael Ward, William Joppy. And then you had some guys over in Virginia that were the same way. You had the Beast, Anthony.
I know you're talking about what's his name?
And I know him really well.
Yeah, yeah. They used to knock everybody out, right?
knocked everybody out.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Tony
he,
Shug,
Tony Suggs,
Anthony
Tony
Shug.
Suggs. Tony,
Yeah,
in fact,
Suggs. Yeah, Suggs.
I took Tony Suggs to training camp with Sugar Ray Leonard when Ray was getting ready to fight at Southpaw, and he got in there and worked with Ray. I had DeMarcus Corley in camp with Ray. So I mean, I've
Okay.
always tried to give all the local guys an opportunity when I was working with Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yes, indeed. Now, I as I watched a lot of old tapes of Ray, you was always with him everywhere, man. What was that experience like, man? Just traveling along with the champ all over the world and the country, man, at that time, on his greatest moment.
It was a great experience. I cherish it to this day. I had the opportunity to travel all over the world. I got a chance to meet great people. We traveled everywhere from England to South Africa, South America. I mean, we went everywhere and had an opportunity to be with him, to meet kings, queens, emperors, and not just boxing people. I mean, the people who were in the politics there, and it gave me an opportunity to see what it's like in other countries. And I came back here, and whatever I saw that I could implement back here from those countries, I tried to put into uh, the recreation department and in the amateur program here in DC.
Wow, that's amazing. Some of the like a lot of guys I know, the guy brother Mustafa, he mentions you all Tariq Mustafa from DC Decades. I think that's his name. Brother, he always mentioned you as a mentor of
Uh-huh.
his from the 500 C Street. He runs this like popular DC Decade page. Uh, Talk about your 500 C Street days, man. And because I remember when I came down there, you saw me, was like, hey, Rashid, man, you made sure I was straight, man, with a good, decent job. And explain that experience of you being over at 500 C Street.
Well, like I said, I was with the Department of Recreation, and I was a director of Fort Davis Recreation Center for years. Then I became the ward manager in Ward 7. Then I became the deputy director of the Department of Recreation. And then I left there and I went down to the Department of Employment Services. I was the director for the Marion Barry Youth Leadership Institute. And then I became the director for the youth employment program. And I tried to make sure that all the young people in the Washington, D.C. area had an opportunity to go out and become good citizens, good role model, be able to work and get a good opportunity to provide for themselves and for their family and get a work experience that could carry them all the way through life. So it was a great experience that I had down at 500 C Street. We had like 25,000 people, 25,000 young people working during the summer. And enjoyed the experience. I was talking to a guy the other day that he came off the street, and he was a young guy that didn't have a whole lot of education background, but something about him I really liked. And
Hmm.
I gave him a job down at 500 Street, 500 C Street, and he's been down there now for 20 years.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's what it's all about, helping the future generations. What advice do you have for future fighters, like someone's now currently watching that's a young amateur looking to be inspired to be someone like a Sugar Ray Leonard? What advice would you give them as a young amateur to look out for?
Well, I think what the first thing they have to do is have to have the discipline. They got to be disciplined. They got to want it. They got to be able to put in the work, hard work, to become a world champion. And the thing most of all is that they become someone that other kids look up to. So they want to make sure that they always carry themselves in the right way. Get a good amateur coach that's going to teach them something. Listen to the coach and work hard. That's the most important thing, to work hard. And if they work hard, you'll find out that most of the time they'll come out on top.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Being around Sugar Ray Leonard, what was the greatest moments you think of Sugar Ray Leonard's career that you remember being a part of?
Well, it was several of them, but I think the most important, biggest one was when Sugar Ray Leonard fought Marvin Hagler. Everybody didn't give him a chance at all because he had been out of boxing for a while, and they thought that he had been retired, and they didn't think he'd come back. They thought they were gonna have a lot of ring rust and stuff on him. And in fact, that picture you got right there, those are guys I had in training camp. Uh, but the thing of it is that uh, people didn't know that Ray had 4 fights. Ray had 4 fights prior to him fighting Marvin Hagler, but they were in the
Wow.
gym. They were in the
Yeah.
gym and they weren't sanctioned. But
Right.
we brought in judges. We had the 3 judges. We brought in a referee. Ray had on 16-ounce gloves with no headgear. His opponents had on 12-ounce gloves with headgear, and
Wow.
that was so Ray could get used to being hit again, feeling what it was like to be in the ring. And Ray was 4-0 with 2 knockouts and he fought guys. He fought guys that were credible top 20 fighters during that time period. So he paid them guys good money to come in to work with him, and he had the opportunity to knock that ring rust off. So that it was very easy for him to get back in the ring with Marvin Hagler when people didn't give him a shot and think he could do it. And then the other thing was that when Ray was getting ready for the fight, Ray and Mike Trainer and we sat down and talked about it. He wanted me to go out and spy on Marvin Hagler. So I
Right.
flew out to California to Marvin Hagler's training camp. And back then I had black hair. I dyed my hair
Okay.
gray. I had
Okay.
dyed my hair gray and put on some horn rimmed glasses. And I sat there and watched him spar for 3 days. He boxed with the Weaver triplets. And the Weaver
Okay.
triplets, they were very good fighters, very slick fighters, and they frustrated him. I saw how they frustrated him, and when it was he wanted to stand there and slug like he
Right.
always does, and they would box and move, and he'd tell them stop running, come on, fight, fight, fight. And I took all this stuff back to Ray and gave Ray this information that Marvin Hagler always liked. If you watched any of his old fights, in between rounds when the bell got ready to ring for the next round, he'd always be standing in the middle of the ring waiting for his opponent. And I
Right.
told Ray that. So when the first round was over with, the second round was coming up. Marvin Hagler was getting up off the stool. Ray was standing in the middle of the ring waiting for him.
Right.
So
Right.
all these psychological things that he did to throw him off, and Marvin didn't like it. Didn't like that. And that's one of the reasons, like I said, Ray boxed the whole time because he knew that he could box his ears off, and that's exactly what he did. And I think I saw Marvin a couple years later after that, and he wanted to choke me, but
That's how boxing was back then. It was a pure chess match about strategy and game planning and knowing your opponent. These trainers nowadays, I'm not discrediting none of them. It's just the sport back then was more of a chess match war. It was real war. And
absolutely, absolutely.
for
You
you to
know,
go out there,
when not
go
to
ahead, bro.
cut you off, but when they were negotiating the fight for Marvin Hagler, uh, Ray had to his advantage. Marvin Hagler wanted to fight 15 rounds. Ray had been off for so long. Ray wanted to
Right,
fight 12 rounds, and
right,
so uh, Ray got what he wanted. He got the 12 rounds. Ray wanted the bigger ring. He got
right.
the bigger ring so he could box and move in the ring. And all these things that he was using for strategy for him for Marvin Hagler. And Marvin really didn't know what Ray was trying to do, but Ray was running a sight game on him, and he didn't really know that the sight game was coming.
Right, right. And I do on the show on my other show on the second win, I do a rejudgment of the fight. And I rejudged the fight. And Ray clearly, and then I don't know where the robbery rumors came from. As I rejudged the fight was worse when I rejudged it for Ray than what the scorecards of the actual judges had. I had Ray up like 9 rounds.
Ray did that, and you probably didn't know, but if you listen to the fight in the background, at 30 seconds, Ali Dunlap would holler out 30, 30. So Ray knew he had 30 seconds left in the round, and then Ray would go into the shoe shine move, go inside, spin the guy, and win the round. That was the strategy. That was his
Right.
strategy.
Wow. See, back then boxing was you had it was more than just getting in there punching. It was always a strategy behind it. It was war back then. But
Absolutely. Ray was the king of strategy. He was one of the guys that, he didn't have to do all the stuff at the weigh in, pushing you and stuff like that. He beat you with his brain. He outthought the other guy before they got in the ring.
facts, facts. And I also rejudge, and I heard Ray say this on the show. I rejudged the Hearns too. I still had Ray winning Hearns too. And I don't know why Ray said he didn't win that fight to him. I still think Ray won that fight too. And I rejudged that as well.
Well, it's funny you say that because I thought Ray won the fight as well, but Ray wasn't satisfied with his performance. In training camp, everybody was telling Ray that uh, Tommy was going to be shot. That Ray would beat up on him real, and Ray really psychologically, I think, got to his head to think that
Yeah,
Tommy was going to be an easy opponent, but Tommy came ready to fight, and
yeah,
it was a very close fight, and I think the two knockdowns that Tommy got in the fight helped him. But Ray was building up the points. What I was saying before, Ray was building up the points, putting money in the bank. So at the
yes,
end of the fight,
indeed.
Ray had the points in the end of the bank. It ended up
At
being
the
a draw,
point,
but
it was already done.
right, right,
It- only rounds that I think that Hearns actually won. Hearns will only win a exchange at the end, but he still was already down. Like Raiden already hit him with like 6, 8 punches. He'll land one right hand when Ray coming out. The crowd get loud. And I'm like, how you still Ray already hit him with 6 punches? All he
right,
landed was one right hand coming out. So that made it seem as though, and plus I watch when I rejudge the fight, I rejudge it with the sound down. Because
right, right.
the crowd will have you thinking one way and then the fight is actually going another way. So yeah, I thought Ray won 1 and 2. You know what I'm saying? I personally thought he won 2 and he won it convincingly. To eliminate the knockdowns, those only 4 rounds right there. He was already up like 6 rounds
Right.
in my book. So I don't see it, he was up actually he was up 7 rounds in my book, that fight.
And what's so funny about it that you're talking about the difference in the fighters now and the old fighters. Well, Ray and Tommy Hearns and Roberto Duran have become close friends. I mean, they're
Right.
close friends now. And we tried to get Hagler to get together. They want to do the Four Kings. They want to do the Four Kings tour. Uh, and Tommy was on board, and Duran was on board, but they just couldn't get Marvin to get on board because Marvin was still shocked that he got beat like he did.
This is my partner right here, Daoud, brother Daoud.
How you doing, JD?
I'm
Mr.
good, my
J?
brother. How you doing?
Fine. How's everything going? Great history. Yeah.
That's great. Everything's good, man.
Oh, thank you very much. Just going. Rashid doing a great job interviewing you. I'm just sitting there amazed, just listening to you. I was just looking up some of the old photos of you and Ray Leonard and stuff like that as you was talking. Some of the great things you done in the boxing community,
Well,
manager.
it's funny that you say that because like I've known Ray since he was 15 years old. Uh, his
Oh,
father used to be the manager of the grocery store down the street from my house. So Ray
mhm,
used to come in the grocery store sometimes and bag groceries and whatnot. And then when he started fighting as the amateur out of Palmer Park, like I told you that Jenks Morton was his trainer, and Jenks Morton and I we were very close because we played on the same team, the Washington Black Sox, together. And
mhm,
so I kind of like been with Ray his whole career, not just his professional career, but in one sense. But I had the opportunity of coming from point A to point B all the way up to the time he retired, and then after he retired, he started traveling around the world doing motivational speeches, and
mhm.
I was with him doing all of those. In fact, up until 2020 when the pandemic started is when I retired. But I've had a great ride with him. I've had some great opportunities. That picture I'm looking at now of him and Floyd Mayweather and Ray, we were in Miami for that, and
Mhm.
Floyd asked Ray, said, Ray, how you think you would do with me? And Ray said, Floyd, I don't want to embarrass you, but I'll do the same thing I did to your father. I'll knock
Oh,
you out.
oh.
What did he say back after he said that?
Floyd said, no, you won't. No, you won't.
Right.
No
Yeah.
man is going to want you to put another man above him, even if they knew they still wouldn't agree to that.
No, it was a good conversation, but they had a great conversation. And, Floyd, I recruited Floyd because, when Ray retired, we started the Sugar Ray Leonard boxing team. And
Mhm.
I was the vice president of Sugar Ray Leonard boxing. And
Okay.
I went all over the world recruiting guys. I recruited Floyd when he was an amateur, tried to get him to sign with us. But
Mhm.
he decided to go another route. But I always thought he was a great fighter as an amateur, and you can see what he did as a pro.
Mhm. Wow.
Yes, indeed. He was definitely a great amateur. We fought together in a few tournaments in the Golden Glove Nationals and stuff like that. He was phenomenal,
Oh
phenomenal,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
He's been a great
So
defensive fighter, but he also had a great offense as well.
yes, he
Mhm.
did, and he's well disciplined. He was very well disciplined with his lifestyle as well too. So,
That's what I said, Rashid, when I was talking about the amateurs. Now they got to be dedicated to what they do and committed to what they do, and be on the right track. Floyd was a well disciplined fighter. He disciplined himself, trained hard. I mean, trained like a monster. And of course, you saw the proof of what happened to him. They become a 50-0 professional world champion.
yes, indeed. So, name some of the fighters around this area that you, or anywhere in the area that you manage that we know of.
Well, go back to like I said, I managed Derek Holmes when Derek turned pro, but he had uh, fell off the face of the earth with the boxing, and he probably one of the best amateurs to come out of the DMV. Back when
Yeah,
him and Ray were amateurs, he was probably considered better than Ray as an amateur.
right,
Uh, and then, like I said, I managed Johnny Gant. Then I had I turned William Joppy pro. I managed William Joppy, three-time world middleweight champion. I turned Chop Chop Demarcus Coley. I turned him pro. He
right.
became junior welterweight champion. I had a kid from Virginia named Luther Smith,
I know
Sugar
him.
Man
Mhm.
Smith.
Mhm.
Yes,
I
indeed.
had him. I turned him pro. I had Anthony Suggs. I had a kid that was uh, one of the biggest ticket sellers in Northern Virginia, Jimmy Lane.
Jimmy
Mhm.
Uh,
Lane. Yeah.
I work with his father with him,
Okay.
and I have a resume of a lot of fighters that I've had. I work with Glenn Coffey Johnson, who became the super middleweight champion of the world. I had Richard Hall from Jamaica. He was the light heavyweight champion of the world. Uh, so I've had a lot of world champions that I've worked with. Uh, I got one fighter now that I have. Like I said, I'm semi-retired, but I have Mike Balagon. He's a former NFL football player. Uh,
Okay.
he's 21-1
Okay.
professionally. He's a heavyweight. Uh, and we were supposed to be fighting this month, but the fight fell through. But I
Okay.
managed him, and you know, I kind of slowed down, but I still got a few tricks up the sleeve.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they don't go nowhere. They don't go nowhere. They're gonna be there forever. Once we get into this thing of boxing, we try to walk away from it, but it keep whispering in our ear every time we try to walk away from it.
It
Yeah.
brings you back every time.
Every time. Every
And, th-
time.
and then I helped. Man, I'm thinking of it. When we had Sugar Ray Leonard boxing, we were recruiting. I went to Concord, California, and recruit for the Olympic trials. And I tried to recruit a guy named Riddick Bowe. And Mike didn't really like Bowe because he thought Bowe was not serious, didn't train good. And I told Rock Newman about him. I said, Rock was out there working for Butch Lewis. And like I
Okay.
said, because Rock and I were friends, we played baseball together. I told Rock, I said, man, there's a kid out here you need to look at. This kid, I think, is going to be a good fighter. And Rock talked to Butch Lewis and told Butch about it, but Butch had the same impression. They all had the same impression of Bo. They didn't think he was going to be serious and dedicated enough. But Rock took a chance. Rock came back. Rock got some people to put some money up to start Rock Newman Productions. Rock Newman Productions, we started promoting fights in Washington, D.C.
Mhm.
The first fight we did is over at the D.C. Armory, and we had a guy named Irish Mike Baker who was managed by Edward Bennett Williams, who owned the Redskins. He managed
Okay.
Irish Mike Baker. And Mike Baker was the first one on the card, and we had Dwight Cowie fought on exhibition on the card. Uh, and the funny story about Irish Mike Baker, the night of the fight back then, we didn't have no cell phones. Okay, so you
Right.
had to do all your business by quarters in the phone booth. So the night before, we had a dedication for Jersey Joe Walcott down at the Touchdown Club,
Okay.
and Mike Baker was supposed to fight a guy out of New Jersey, and the manager called me and left a message on my phone at home. I called and got the message that the fighter that I had for him got locked up and wasn't gonna be able to fight. Now this is the day before
Right.
the fight.
Wow.
So now I'm I'm using my wit to try to be the best matchmaker that I can possibly be, and
Right.
find somebody for him. So while everybody was in the uh, arena for Jersey Joe Walcott, eating, drinking, having fun, I was in a phone booth making phone calls to every fight person around the country that I could find to find somebody. So
Right.
finally, I got in touch with Chris Dundee, which is Angelo Dundee's brother, and he was in Miami. He said, "Well, I got a guy. He's gonna be a little bit overweight, but he's a tough guy. He comes to fight, and his name is Costello King, and uh, he doesn't have a great record, but don't worry about the record because I'm gonna tell you now, he's gonna give you a great fight." So I said, "Okay, man. What I need him to do, I need him to get on his plane tomorrow morning, because back then we did the weigh-in the morning of the fight.
Okay.
And I said I need him to get on that plane and be here early in the morning for the weigh-in." And Ron Harris, I don't know if you know Ron Harris, Glenn Harris's brother. He was
Okay.
working with Rock. He was working with Rock. He was the president of Rock Film Production then. He went to the
Okay.
airport to pick him up, and we went to weigh in. And Ron came back, and Ron said, "Man, there was nobody at the airport." I said, "What?" I got on the phone with Chris. I said, "Chris, what happened to the guy?" He said, "Mr. Plane. He's on the next plane coming." And I'm panicking. I'm like, "Oh man, this guy here, Mike Baker. He's the main event. He got all these people buying tickets for him. The DC Army gonna be, 10,000 people, all of them coming to see him."
Right.
So,
Wow.
um, so then it was funny because he said, I said, "Well, how's he gonna recognize?" He said, "He'll be a tall black guy with red hair, and he'll have a bag of oranges and a bag of grapefruits on his arm." Hmm. I said, "Okay." I told Ron. Ron went back to the airport, and the weigh-in was over with. Mike Baker was still sitting around because he wanted to see who he was fighting and what the weight was going to be.
Right.
So uh, Ron picked him up. He was there, picked him up. He came back. He came into the weigh-in, had a cowboy hat on. He looked like a light heavyweight. Supposed to have been a middleweight. He looked like a light heavyweight. And uh, I was worried then because I said this guy's gonna be overweight. He said gonna be a little bit overweight. He's gonna be way overweight.
Right. Right.
So Mike Baker said, "Okay, I want to see him weigh." I said, "Well, let the guy get, took his clothes off and everything, got on the scale, and he was like 8 pounds, no, 7 pounds over."
Okay.
And I said, "Mike," I said, "he's gonna go in the bathroom, he's gonna jog and try to lose like at least 5 pounds." So I know he wasn't gonna be able to do it, but we just said that. So he goes
Right.
in the bathroom, he's sweating. Mike left and went home, and the guy came out and got back on the scales, and believe it or not, he lost 4 pounds. He didn't lose 5 pounds, but he lost 4 pounds, and they agreed to the fight. So the fight goes on. The place is packed. This guy gets in the ring, hits Mike Baker with a shot. I thought Mike Baker was out. He was wobbling on his feet. I said, "Oh no, I didn't got the man knocked out from a last minute replacement."
Right.
From a last minute replacement. But Mike came back and won the fight, knocked the guy out, and everything was great from there. And
Okay.
that was really the beginning of my matchmaking career. I started making
Right.
matches all over the country. I started making matches. I made matches for the Mirage Hotel when they opened. I did the Buster
Okay.
Douglas. He ran the Holyfield fight. I did that
Okay.
for the Mirage, and I
Wow.
brought all the guys. I put local guys on the undercard. I put Riddick Bowe for Burt Cooper on the card. I put a
Okay.
kid named Michael Ward for it on the undercard.
I know Mike Ward. I know Mike. Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
Rest in peace to him.
yeah. So I tried to get it whenever I was involved with the fight anywhere. I tried to get the local guys involved with it. Most of all the race cards, I always put the local guys on the undercard so they could
Okay.
get a chance to get that experience. I think when Ray made his first comeback, he fought Kevin Howard in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I put the whole undercard was DC.
Wow.
Charles Price, Kenny Bazemore, uh, Henry Bunch. I mean, I put all these guys on the undercard, and they all did good. They all won,
Yes,
and
indeed.
so that was the other thing that I always tried to do because Ray had the platform to take these guys around the world, and I had the opportunity of doing. We signed a guy by the name of Sean O'Sullivan, who was a
Okay.
silver medalist in the Olympics. He lost
Okay.
to Frank Tate. He lost to Frank Tate, and we signed him. He was from Canada, and this guy you talking about? I thought Jimmy Lang had fans. This guy Sean O'Sullivan had fans in every one of the provinces in Canada, and every month we were going to a different place for him to fight, and the place would be packed, sold out to see him fight.
Right.
And he was living here in this area here. uh, for a minute, and then another kid named Dan Sherry. He was from Canada also. We had him at that time,
Okay.
and so I remember one time we took the whole card to Canada to fight, and all the undercard guys were local guys from here.
Mm-hmm.
Got a chance to travel out the country and do things like that. So that's what I always try to do. I always try to take care of the people here.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
That's good.
indeed.
That's
You
great.
boxing now is going into I wish that social media was back then where they could see how, the difference between now and then was if without social media. Now, if you guys had social media and they saw you done all this, they would have thought you guys were boxing gods. How you was making things happen with that little bit of technology that you had back then to pull something out like that, at the last minute, the matchmaker card like that.
You're
And
absolutely right, Rush. Let me tell you something. See, you're absolutely right. Like I said, we didn't have the fortune of having cell phones, and like I
right,
said, we had to go to a phone booth and use the telephone and call people like that. Uh, and like you said, we had social media. If we had social media back then and the technology that they have now, boxing would have been even bigger back then than it was. Uh,
facts.
the prime example that whenever you got a good match, though, you can make matches and make them great. Like I said, I had the opportunity of working with Johnny Gant, and when Johnny Gant fought Sugar Ray Leonard at the
Mhm.
Capitol Center, it was sold out, and then they had closed circuit they put at the DC Armory, and that was sold out. So
Yeah,
that was two local guys, just like the Tank and Lamont Road situation. But those back then, we didn't have any social media and everything. These guys sold out the place every time
right.
they fought. And like I said, had we had social media, we could have gone up from the ticket prices being $10 to what they are now for $100.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly, exactly. It
Well,
was an honor. You got some questions? Go ahead, brother.
yeah, it was great for what you was doing because a lot of promoters and stuff was selling DC fighters out to get knocked out by outsiders. We had a lot of people in our area was misusing some of the boxers in DC. There was I don't want to call no name, but they call him the Meat Man, where they would outmatch DC fighters all the time and to make DC fighters look terrible. I call it a sellout to our city, but I commend you for bringing out the talents that we had in our city to put it on the map because we had a lot of people in the city were selling out.
Yeah, you're right. We had a lot of people that didn't do the right thing by these guys, uh, and but we had so much talent here in DC. I'm gonna call you a name of a guy you might know, you might not know, who probably could have been a world champion and probably one of the best fighters to come out of this area. A guy named Gary Jones.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
that's one of my
He's
I was trained with him too.
he's the oldest of the Russell brothers.
That's
Yes,
correct.
He's
indeed.
the oldest of the Russell brothers, and
Hmm.
they call him Gary Fast Hands Jones. He had some
Yeah.
of
Yes,
the fastest
indeed.
hands you ever want to see.
In the
And
world. Yep.
but like I said, just couldn't be disciplined. I turned him and Chop Chop Pro at the same time.
Hmm.
Okay, after the first fight, and it's never been done before in boxing history with Don King. Don King signed both of them 4-round fighters. He never did that. Don, you always had to have a ranking or be a world champion. Don
Yeah.
Hmm.
signed both of them as 4-round fighters when they started their career. That's how good they were.
Hmm.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, we know Gurry. Gurry was a great fighter. I remember when because Gurry, when he first started boxing and how he was just shaking up the whole area with, him and Chop fought a few times as amateurs.
Hmm.
And that was a rumble, a nice rumble at Hillcrest. So
That's
yeah,
the
yeah,
great.
Gary Jones was he was a bad boy. I remember him back in the day. He went in there with the best of them, beat the best of them back then as an amateur.
Hmm.
If he'd have stayed on the straight and narrow, he'd have been a world champion.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But listen, brother, we gonna get this ball rolling, man. I truly, truly appreciate you. Shout out to Anthony Jackson, man, for reaching out to me to get you on here because you you've been like one of the major requests to get on here, man, from many people. They wanted to hear your boxing history, hands up, from the horse's mouth. So it's an honor and a pleasure, brother, to have you on here. You welcome here anytime. If you want to talk boxing about anything, you're welcome here anytime. And I look forward to seeing you out and about, because I know Ray just left here. Was what, last week?
This weekend.
Yeah, this weekend just passed, So I look forward to seeing you guys out and about, because I know one thing I like about with Ray's been coming out much more, you know what I'm saying, at many events. So, and it's a beautiful thing to get to see the legend in person,
And he doesn't live here. He lives in California,
Exactly. And that's a beautiful thing, to see him here, Ladies and gentlemen, it was an honor, a pleasure to have no other than DC legendary boxing promoter / manager, the legendary J.D. Brown on DC Boxing Legends podcast.
All right.
Peace.
Thank you,
sir.
brother. Thank you.
All right,
Have a great one.
All right,
Peace
nice
and
seeing you. Peace.
If you're looking for a way to power up your nutrients with a plant-based protein powder, then raw vegan plant-based protein is the perfect choice. This vegan protein is packed with essential nutrients to help you stay energized and healthy. With plant-based protein powder becoming increasingly popular amongst health-conscious individuals, it's no surprise that raw vegan plant-based proteins has become a leader in the industry. Whether you're an athlete or just looking to increase your daily protein intake, this vegan protein powder can help you reach your goals. Visit rawvegan.com. Again, rawvegan.com.